Alright, what's up guys? Nito here, and welcome back to another episode of Noteworthy Interactions. So today I am very excited to share with you guys one of my probably favorite builds of all time. I've just been having a blast with this build, and it is incredibly tanky and just a lot of fun to play. So this is a Fire Tornado Chieftain. So we're using Anomalous Tornado, which, if you don't know, got buffed this patch along with pretty much every other hit-based spell. So because you're self-casting it, it got basically a 50% more damage buff. So because of that, the damage on it without actually using the projectile portion is actually pretty decent. So you don't really need to do the whole like hit the tornado with a bunch of projectiles to charge it up and then let your tornado reflect damage from the projectiles. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just using tornado on its own as both a clearing skill and a bossing skill, and it feels really, really good. Part of that is because it's kind of like a damage over time skill in the sense that it basically has 100% uptime in terms of your DPS on bosses. But it is actually a hit-based skill, so you can do things like leech and apply on-hit effects and stuff like that. So it has a lot of really good benefits. And the cool thing that I'm doing here is I am using the new amulet, Ashes of the Stars, which has plus 30% quality to all skill gems. So that's going to apply to this Anomalous Tornado, and as you can see, we're getting 100% reduced initial duration. So you know, with just 20% quality, we only get 40%. So the amulet actually takes us all the way up to 100% reduced initial duration, and that's going to mean that the tornado, as soon as we drop it, it's going to start moving around on its own, and there's going to be no 1.5 second initial duration where you're supposed to hit it with projectiles and where it just kind of like sits still and waits for you to hit it, because we're not doing any of that projectile stuff. So the ashes, this amulet is like incredible. Like everything about this amulet is awesome. You know, not only does it give you +1 to all skill gems and a whole bunch of reservation efficiency of skills, which by the way is not mana reservation efficiency, it's generic reservation efficiency. So that also applies to life reservation, which is one of the few sources of life reservation efficiency in the game now. The other source being Champion of the Cause, and this one node behind Champion of the Cause. These are both generic reservation, and then there's also a mastery that has generic life reservation, or sorry, not generic, but life reservation efficiency. So other than that, it's really hard to get life reservation efficiency, so this is actually really powerful. But I'm not actually using that on this build, just something to note. But yeah, the 30% quality to all skill gems is just unbelievable, because it's basically like linking a level 5 enhance to every single active skill that you have. It's nuts. So there's some other really cool combos that we're doing with this. In particular, like the alternate quality gems really benefit. So one thing we're doing is using Anomalous Arctic Armour, which normally has up to 20% chance to freeze enemies that hit you. The amulet is going to bring it all the way up to 50% chance to freeze enemies, and then we are linking it to elemental proliferation support, which is also going to increase the duration of the freeze and proliferate it to the entire pack. So 50% of the time when we get hit, the entire pack gets frozen. So it's an amazing defensive mechanic for this build. And then, you know, another cool thing, actually, where is it? Righteous Fire. So Divergent Righteous Fire, the buff grants 20% increased spell damage. And so with the amulet, it's 50% increased spell damage on top of the 40% more spell damage that the Righteous Fire buff normally gives us. And, you know, we are a Chieftain, and we have actually capped all res. So we have 90% all res, which I'll explain in a minute, but you can see right here. 90%, 90%, 90%, and then we also have around 3,700 37,000 armor, and 6 endurance charges, and some other defensive layers that I'll explain in a minute. But just getting back to this amulet, yeah, so it's both really good for defense and offense and utility. You know, it turns a lot of different skills into, you know, like very unique play styles. Basically, like a lot of the alternate quality gems just have some really cool things you can do with it. So I would definitely look into this amulet. Very interesting. The other thing I'm doing on this build is because Tornado is a pure physical skill, I am fully, as a Chieftain, I'm fully converting it to fire. So we have 50% from Namahu's Flames of Advance, and then we have the other 50% from Avatar of Fire here. And then we are scaling some Herald of Ash buff effect. So we got 60% from there. We got the implicit on the new gloves. That gives another 23%. And we also have some more on the tree anointed over here. So Herald of Ash really scales well with physicals converted to fire spells, because you get both the Fizz as extra fire and the more fire spell damage scaled by that buff effect. So it's very strong. Yep, and then just getting into the defenses a bit, I am utilizing 2 of these new jewels to get Unbreakable from the Juggernaut Ascendancy, which is just like such an amazing defensive layer for a Chieftain to have, because you get a bunch of regeneration from it, you get just generic reduced damage taken, you get double armor from your body. So my body armor is actually very, very good, 2,700 armor, so that gets doubled. Plus we got some extra max fire res, we got some life recovery rate, life regen, strength, like all kinds of good stuff on there. Took me a while to craft it, but I'm very happy with the results there. And yeah, so the actually max fire res on here is very important, because I'm also using this other new jewel, Melding of the Flesh, which says elemental resistances are capped by your highest maximum elemental resistance instead. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting my fire res all the way up to 90%. So, you know, we get some on the tree, so +1 barbarism. We get the +1 here and +2 to all res here, so that's +4. And then I'm running Purity of Fire. This is a level 21 gem, and it's in a ring that has +2 level of socketed gems, so that brings it up to 5% extra max fire res. And then with some aura effect scaling and stuff on the tree, that goes up to 7%. Then we got another one, +1 from the ring, and then +2 from the chest. I believe that's all we need. And that gets us all the way up to 90% fire res, which then also gets applied to our other resistances. So you can see we're 90% all res. Very, very strong defensive mechanic, especially when you're regenerating as much as I am. So you can see, like, my base regeneration is 1,500 life per second. And then when I get hit, because I have the Unbreakable Jug node from Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame, the physical damage that I prevent from hits is going to be regenerated even more. So, like, I've seen this number go basically double, go all the way up to like 3,000 or even more sometimes. It just depends how much you're getting hit, but like as a baseline, even 1,500 life regen per second is pretty huge. It's basically more than a quarter of my life pool every second. Very strong. And then because we're a Chieftain, we are immune to Ignite. Where is it? Yeah, unaffected by Ignite. We also get some extra life recovery there, and Fizz taken as fire, which is huge. Also, the extra fire res on here comes in handy because this jewel has -72% to all resistances, which is quite hefty and a little difficult to work around, but I managed to do it with some pretty good gear. Actually, so I spent I should preface this by saying I spent quite a bit on this build. Like my gear is pretty well optimized at this point. I kind of started out with this staff, which I actually pulled out of Heist pretty much as is. The only thing I did to change it was to change the, originally it had fire res on it, but I needed lightning res, so I just swapped the res with harvest crafting. But yeah, the rest of it was just like perfect for this build, so I was like, as soon as I pulled this out of Heist, I was like, I'm going to make this Chieftain Tornado build and just see how it works. And I've been extremely happy with the results. I didn't even POV it out or anything. I just kind of winged it, and it's definitely been a pretty great result, I would say. And I've been just, crafting with a lot of the new currencies that they added, and they are very powerful, both the implicits and the ability to just target prefixes and suffixes. This Scorch Ground mod, so drop Scorch Ground while moving, which is pretty cool, and it has great synergy with Arctic Armor, which drops Chilled Ground while moving. So anything that anything that walks near you is going to get chilled and scorched, and the chill is going to kind of like keep the enemy in the scorch area for longer. So that's kind of a nice synergy there. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the tree. I guess the other thing to mention is a natural instinct here, just like absolutely insane for any kind of fizz spell, especially ones that are AoE and have a duration. Just like you get such ridiculous stats from this spot, so definitely recommend that. Yeah, and then call to arms so that we can use During Cry. And then the other cool thing is we're using Divine Blessing support. So actually, right now our reservations are Punishment as Blasphemy Aura, and the reason I'm doing this is because the overkill damage causes enemies to explode, and it does like a physical explosion, and then Herald of Ash also does damage based on the overkill, and because this is basically fizz that's getting converted to fire, Herald of Ash is also adding extra damage to the explosions there. So it's a very powerful clear tool that doesn't even really require any gearing at all. So you can have this up and running on any build, but especially builds that are fizz to fire it's very strong on. So I would definitely recommend that. And I'll show you in a second what it looks like, but it definitely helps with the clear speed a lot. Then I'm running Purity of Fire, obviously, Herald of Ash, Arctic Armor, and Determination. And then I also have Anger with Divine Blessing support and Lifetap. So the key here is that Divine Blessing makes it so that your aura costs mana. It basically turns it into a temporary buff that lasts about 10 seconds. But it's going to cost mana based on your mana pool. So normally it reserves 50% of your pool, so the mana cost is based on that. But if you use Life Tap, the mana cost is still based on your mana pool, however it costs life to spend it. So it only cost me 1300 life to actually cast this aura. And as you can see, my entire mana pool is already reserved, so I couldn't cast it on mana, but it's actually really easy to cast on life, especially because I have incredible regen, so like I'm just instantly back to full as soon as I cast it. So it's basically an extra free aura, which is just really valuable. But anyways, I'm going to show you this map real quick. This is a tier 16, fairly juiced up map with the Eater of Worlds influence on it, so it's going to get pretty juicy, and I'll show you kind of what this looks like. But yeah, basically the playstyle is you just drop your tornado, and you can see it's already moving, although there's no enemies here, but it normally seeks out enemies and kind of just like moves in the right direction. And then also Wave of Conviction is very strong, even as just on a 3 link with Combustion and Life Tap, like Wave of Conviction can actually kind of clear on its own, especially combined with this Punishment Herald of Ash combo. And the other thing is we're just using Righteous Fire, as I pointed out earlier, and we're not degenning obviously because we have maxed fire res, so it's very, very easy to sustain that. But basically we just drop our tornado, let it kind of do its thing. Kind of just run into the middle of stuff. Like I can probably just stand here doing nothing, die, because I have such incredible regeneration and so much defense as well. So Let's see what I'm here. Do extra uniques.
I cannot carry this.
You know, I'll just pick all this stuff up later.
Pretty bulldogs, just for me.
My mana is gone.
Easy game. But really, the time that I take the most damage is whenever I'm casting Anger and Ball Rage's Fire, because they use most of my life pool up. Although we recover it quite quickly, so usually what I try to do is time my Enduring Cry right when I press my 2 damage buffs, so we can just do that. So you see my life pool just drops pretty low, but then it shoots right back up. So you just have to be a little careful about your timing there, but for the most part, that's actually the most dangerous part, is what you do, you know, when you do it to yourself, right? When you take damage from casting your own abilities. But yeah, I mean, like, I can probably just sit here and not cast anything, and my life is barely even dropping. And you can see my flasks are all gain charges when you're hit by an enemy, and use when charges reach full, so your flasks just kind of stay up most of the time. So with flasks up, I'm at like 64k armor. And I got the Chaos Res flask because my Chaos Res is a little low, just because with that jewel that makes it hard to cap all your resistances. It's just pretty hard to squeeze in a bunch of Chaos Res. So. But yeah, so the single target is fine, I would say. It's not exceptional or anything, but it feels to me like, I don't know, maybe 2 million DPS or so. And again, it feels like a kind of damage over time skill, because really it has 100% damage uptime. You know, you just drop your tornado and you can run around, and your tornado is going to be dealing damage the entire time. I really haven't like POB'd it out at all yet, so I don't know what the actual damage numbers are. I will try to get that for you when I post this video. So after I make this, I'll figure out what the damage numbers actually are. But yeah, I would guess it's somewhere around 2 million DPS. That's kind of my feeling about, you know, just playing with it for a while, how it feels. Which, you know, it's pretty respectable, I would say, for a character that's this freaking tanky. And yeah, like, you can kind of just drop your tornado and just let it do its thing. There's also, if you feel like your tornado is moving too slowly, what you can do is you can get the helmet enchant that increases movement speed for your tornado. Currently, I just have the damage one because I didn't feel like I needed the extra movement speed. But really, it's kind of up to you whether you feel like you want it to just kind of like zoom. But yeah, for the most part, I didn't feel like there was any reason for it, because you can always just recast it as, you know, if you kind of like move forward and it's lagging behind, you can kind of just recast it. So it's not too necessary to have like super fast move speed. But the normal quality tornado also gets extra movement speed from quality. So again, with the amulet, you can also get a whole bunch of extra move speed right there if you feel like you want it. And then like this is what the kind of single target looks like. The boss decides to put that down. And then yeah, you just want to make sure you're keeping your anger buff up. And yeah, there it is. So this has easily been one of my favorite builds that I've ever made, just because of how incredibly tanky it is, and just the ability to have Unbreakable as a Chieftain is so nuts. And the the ease of which you can cap all your res, it's kind of crazy. So personally, this is my kind of build. Super tanky. The damage is like all right, but not anything exceptional, I would say, but certainly good enough for most endgame content. I did attempt to do Simulacrum, and I died to a very juiced up Kosis on wave 27. And the reason I died was, again, because I used Fall Righteous Fire, and then I got slapped right as I used it. And unfortunately, that was my last portal. So I do think that your damage is a little too low to really comfortably do those last couple levels of Simulacrum. It's a little sketch, but the tankiness is definitely there for sure. So yeah, most of their endgame content though, like a lot of bosses and stuff are a breeze. You know, you can tank Cyrus die beams easily. Haven't tried Maven yet, but I don't imagine it would be very difficult on a character like this. So, and again, just because of the playstyle, you just kind of drop your tornado and you run around and dodge, and your tornado is just doing damage the entire time. So really fun, really solid. Would definitely recommend this build. Again, you know, my gear is pretty juiced up at this point. So really though, like you just need, like when I was leveling this build, actually, I didn't have any gear. I leveled with gear that I found, like wall leveling, not, you know, nothing. I didn't even have uniques and stuff that I put on. And it was super smooth leveling, just really, really smooth as soon as you get Tornado and Wave of Conviction, and then the Punishment Blasphemy and Herald of Ash combo. Just felt really good. So yeah, you can definitely get started on this without too much gear. Although if you can get yourself a staff like this, I would definitely recommend it because it's a massive amount of damage. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I will shout out my Discord once more. Great place to come and just hang out, talk about the game, talk about cool interactions that you found, and I will leave a link to that below the video. So thanks for watching, and have a good one.